Welcome in. This course was previously on Teachable and it is now free on YouTube.
Hello, beautiful artists, creatives, and makers. Let's do what we can with what we have where we are. Let's brown bag it. You are invited to join me in my first of what I hope to be a long series of courses, Lost Arts with Janine, where we are going to use what we have on hand and create and make and gift and have fun playing, enjoying creativity, and making armloads of beautiful things to love and to give. So join me and we will begin soon. See you there. Oh my goodness, that was quick. Here we are. Let's get started. First, a tour through several books that have already been made.
Please don't forget to subscribe right away because you're going to love this.
Welcome, friends, creatives, makers, do-it-yourselfers, artists. Welcome to Brown Bag It. This is my very first of my online Lost Arts with Janine courses. So this is one in a little taster series just to get acquainted and see what kind of things might be coming up. So this is called Brown Bag It, which means bring your own. And I love that because I would like to create as many courses as possible that help everyone use what they have on hand to do what they can. And this little journal or booklet or gift can be several different sizes, which I will show you. And it can almost entirely, possibly entirely be made of what you have on hand or can easily thrift for near to nothing. So the base of it is brown bags. So these are, you can use lunch bags, even up to a grocery size bag would be really fun. But I have 3 sizes to show you. So I'm going to show you the inside of this one that I made, and I turned it into a travel journal from a trip. So they're so fun because they end up having all kinds of tuck points. And we will be adding in all kinds of normal, everyday papers to use for pages. And then all kinds of fun collected scraps of things and extra pages. And I will show you all of these things in the next video, which will be the supply video. So tuck points, secret places, extra pages, little pockets, tiny photos, scraps of old things, so beautiful old wallpaper, old fabric, postcards, copies of things, art papers you've made, little sketches, all kinds of fun stuff. So more tuck points, secret little places, places to keep things, hide things, add things. But I love using old things, things full of character, things with history. I guess I closed that one up. Art pages, a little bit of stickiness there needs to be removed. Layers, So this could be a travel journal, a gift, a card, a journal, an art journal, a book you want to write, a gift for a child to fill and write their own little book. And so all of the pages are uneven and different sizes and perfectly imperfect, because perfection should not be the goal. Fun and creativity and using what you have on hand to make do and create what you can with that. Or a little thrifting thrown in. And then if you want, of course, use purchased items. So there will be links in the supply list to those, but mostly just made from what is on hand. So here's one that isn't used yet, but it is assembled and begun. I sell these in my shop, and I do this so that people are not worried about the blank page. So I go ahead and do some stamping and add some tabs and put in some art papers and all kinds of interesting papers that from old books and thrifted. You can use magazine pages, school supplies, office supplies, papers that are mixed media, so they can be sketched or painted on. And I'll be talking about just using a little bit of white or black gesso or white paint to stabilize those first if you would like. These are just fun, thrifted, interesting pages. And gifted art pages, and art pages that you can just make while you're playing around yourself. Old maps, old newsprint, or I believe it's called manila. You can make tabs out of anything. So we'll be doing 2 signatures, but you can do more if you'd like. It depends on your method, whether it's small or large staplers, tape, gluing things together, or what you choose. So there's one that's finished and ready to give to someone, and they can turn it into whatever they want it to be. And then here's a little one, the kind of like the school lunch bag size, but they make even smaller bags, which would be adorable. So this is not taped, and it's not 2 signatures, it's 1, and it's sewn together. But it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bags, and they're alternated, and they're adorable. Have the little tuck points, hiding places, added papers, a little pocket, journaling lines. This is from just a office ledger, easy to thrift in thrift shops. From an old calendar, scrapbook paper, old book pages, dictionary pages, a stamp that gives you journaling lines to start with, more scrap papers with lines to write on, and secret places. So that's a little one. So this one with small bags is just sewn, but you could do the other with 2 or more signatures. It's going to be completely up to you, and you're going to make it your own. And with what you have on hand, you're welcome to make them look like these, but the goal is for you to make a completely unique book, journal, gift, or whatever you choose to use it for. Here is another one that is not completed, but just started. And it's a part 2 of a second trip to Fredericksburg, Texas. And if you have not been there, you need to go. But anyway, this is one that I started when we went last spring. And all of my favorite places, again, I went there years ago when our daughter was just learning to drive. So we went again with her family now. And here are favorite places, new different ways to add papers with the little stapler, fun art pages that I just wanted to add in, secret places to hide things, ways to add those without interfering with the folds of the pages, secret places underneath, fun receipts from favorite stores. And I added some of those really yummy cotton rag handmade art pages, stapled at the top and then covered with some washi tapes. And those are ready to do whatever I would like with. Fun little tidbits, memorabilia, washi tapes, things that I saved out of a magazine I bought on the trip. The tourist guide. This was some really cool fiber, plant fiber that was part of a charcuterie board at a winery place that we stopped. So just a lot of options for adding pages into one of these brown baguette books to write what I want to remember. I used little pieces of the gummed tape to cover up the label on the brown bag. I saved brochures. I started to write with that neat pen that's in the supplies that will write on anything and it's permanent. And I saved some of the bags from shopping to add into my bag book. And I'm saving and tucking and hiding things. More neat art papers. Lined paper to write on. Here's from a really fun bag in Fredericksburg that I think I might attach and have a fun little handle on the top. We'll see. More of the plant fiber from the charcuterie, the wonderful art paper, more art paper, my favorite place to shop, one of the bags. So just a sample, another little tour for ideas. So I hope this gives you a really good idea of all of the fun ways to create a lot of gifts.
Are you ready? Please keep in mind that I am joining a whole bunch of videos together from this course on Teachable into this one.
It's me, Janine. Welcome to the beginning of Brown Baguette. Let's make armloads of things to love and to give. Remember, these can be for any age, any gender, children to grandparents and everyone in between, as gifts, cards, albums, journals, anything you want it to be, and there are no rules. So let's start looking at supplies. I would love to show you how to make these using what you have on hand where you are. Let's do what we can with what we have where we are. So I would love to just show you all the possible ideas for creating these gifts of a book, a journal, made out of brown paper bags and things that you probably have on hand for nearly free, possibly completely free, or if you would like to use a lot of the things that I show. There is a supply list in the course with links to as many of these things as I could find to link to. Okay, here are the supplies that are useful and optional. So of course, the brown lunch bags. And it doesn't take very many, but you get a lot all at once. So there's the lunch bags. And here's some really big bags. They won't even fit in the whole screen. But these are for in a shop, and they're from Uline. So you can buy 50, or 100 or 250, and then you'd really be in business and could make a lot of bags. And they come in different weights, and this is a really sturdy weight, so that's helpful. Of course, none of this is going to be archival. It's all just everyday good stuff. So the big bags, and then you can find little tiny bags, or you could find bigger ones, smaller ones, white ones, different colored bags. So one of my favorite tools for putting these bags together is this packing tape. It's gummed, and I've thrifted a bunch of it. And so that it comes plain or reinforced with the strings throughout it. And so I love to go ahead and stamp a whole bunch of this with rubber stamps or stamps you've made yourself or whatever you want. But just be sure it's permanent, because then when we are ready to put the book together, we will wet this sponge. You can cut a sponge to the shape of a small shallow dish, and it's wet, and there's a little water in there, and you just slide your piece through and wet it really easily. That's why you want whatever you put on here to be permanent, unless you don't mind a little, shabby, grungy, blending, running. Another option is to cut it in half first if you only need smaller widths. So you can do that ahead of time and get a bunch of it ready and stamp a bunch. If you don't end up having access to gummed packing tape, you can make your own, really out of any paper. This is masking paper for painting in homes and things like that. It runs through a machine with tape, but I love it. It's not quite as thick, so you might want to find a thicker craft paper, like a craft wrapping paper, and you can cut strips or widths or whatever you need for each place that you want to assemble things, and then use Elmer's glue or glue sticks of any kind, as long as they are permanent. So these are, and I will link them. They're photo safe and permanent, so I will link them in the supply list. So those are supplies for assembling. One way to assemble the books. The signatures, the pages, the covers. Here are other supplies. It's really pretty basic and simple. For the big books, if you have access to a big office stapler, it's very handy because it can staple through some pretty thick, tough layers, and it marks exactly where you want the staple to go. So if you have access, if you can borrow one, or if you have one and some staples, it doesn't take very many, but it's one option. And then other options are regular staples in a regular stapler, and apparently mine left. And then for all kinds of work inside the book, I love the Tim Holtz Tiny Attacher. And it can reach pretty far in to attach things. And they're tiny, adorable little staples. And you can tell how much I've used. And a whole lot of other boxes full. I believe it comes with the box, but you'll want to get refills. So I love that stapler, just a regular office stapler. I thrifted these colored ones, but you will probably be able to find them if you want. That's a deal. I've seen green and blue and gold, so you might want to look for those. For using glue and spreading glue, if that's what you choose, like Elmer's glue or any kind of paste or medium, these are nice for spreading glue. A plastic palette knife comes in a pack of 5 different ones at the dollar store. Super handy. And of course, just a chip brush for glues and paints. Super cheap, and it gives a really neat texture, which is what I love. Kind of grunge and boho and shabby. This is a great pen that will write on anything, and I buy them by the dozen on Amazon. So there are a few things that are kind of nice to buy and have on hand, and I will link that. So for some of the brown bag pages and other pages we add, you might want to stabilize them with clear. You can get clear gesso, white gesso, black gesso in many different brands. Or you could use black paint or just white paint or whatever paint or colors you want. I recommend acrylic or gessos. And then you can even be adding in fabric pages that are gessoed. And these can be painted on, drawn on, written on. And these are just muslin and canvas and old linens that I've torn up that have crocheted lace on the edges. Black gesso is really fun. And then you can use a white jelly pen. You could embroider on any of these, and they can just be pages that are added in, stapled in, tucked in. They might be able to, be into the binding part if they're big enough for your bag. And even do gesso and then a stamp with a tiny bit of water, and I just love this grungy look, but then you have some really neat old looking journal lines to go with. The sky's the limit. These are just a few ideas of things to add in to your wonderful books. So next I'm going to show you a whole bunch of paper ideas that can be pages. So this was a whole box of about 24 cards, and they're just simple and plain. They don't have anything else on them. These have a little bit of lines that could work for journaling. So these could become pages. This could become a page. This would go into the folder, the signature. This could be used to attach things. So that's going to be its own page on one side, and this is going to be a page on the other side of the signature. So all kinds of fun. You could use cards that are written on, old postcards, other old envelopes, all different sizes. Tear them to size. Fun tissue. Love this for all kinds of uses. Things that you've printed off for other uses. Pattern paper. All of these can be stabilized with clear gesso if you want. Probably even Elmer's glue, but gesso if you want to be able to write and sketch and things like that. Old book pages. These are French from the 1800s. Wrapping paper. Adorable old dictionary pages. are fantastic. The old ones usually have a lot of really cool illustrations. These are old looking bags for a shop like mine. Have you ever noticed in the inside of office and bills and junk mail all of the patterns of the paper? And these can become pages. And then you have some little windows, and you can cover up whatever you don't like later while you're embellishing. But look at all of the patterns. They're so fun. And you also have all these little windows, which is really a bonus, and you can paint on them. So really neat, thrifted. I have no idea, but I thrifted this book, and it's either Chinese or Japanese papers. It is so fun. Here's another one, and it's kind of like rice paper. And we love crinkly, delicious papers and old papers with the patina. So these are fun pieces, pages out of Old Reader's Digest condensed books. They have a lot of neat art and just a lot of fun. Even the covers are a blast to take off and make other books, altered books from old art. I think this is an original, and I tore it up, and it's really cool to use in pieces separately. This is old writing stationery when people used to write letters all the time. It's deliciously crinkly. Packing paper. More packing paper that has a little bit of speckling in it. Office supplies. Wonderful. Old maps out of old atlases that have the really pretty browning, aged look on the edges, and so colorful. And you could probably find where it is you wanted to look for if you were using it for a travel journal, a gift for a travel journal. Old. These are magazines from the 1800s. And nobody wants these except we do, and we should repurpose them into beautiful new books. Music covers, music book covers, pages out of architectural books with super cool printing. And these are just mixed media, generic tablets of art papers from the store. They're not expensive, but they're great for adding in for whatever art you want to do, and you can prep them if you need. I have no idea. Pretty blue paper. Old, I believe it's called manila. Graph paper is really fun to add in because then you have some lines to go by, and there's all different sizes. So I think this is drafting. It's just fun. These are landscaping plans. So they're just cool. And you won't be using the whole page because it probably won't fit. But when you're using a portion of it, how cool is that? So cool. More kind of really inexpensive so-called cardstock. This paper is called sulfite paper, and it comes in a huge tablet. I believe it's 18 by 22. From Amazon, it comes in a really big pack. I love it. It's great for everything, including acrylic and watercolor. It's wonderful. And so it can be torn down into smaller pieces, obviously, or do art, whatever art you like, and cover a big piece and call it a master sheet, and then tear it up and have a whole bunch of art at once. even just like swatching paints or doodling or just being crazy with color and paint. Here it is in black. That's real pretty with white jelly roll pens, white paint, gold paint, whatever will show up and contrast with black. This is handmade, beautiful cotton rag from India, and it comes in a package like this. If you know how to make your own, that would be lovely. If you don't and you want some, I will link this on Amazon. But it's handmade, and it comes with the person's name that made it. You can see the clothespin marks where they put it up to dry. Deckled edge, it was not that expensive, but you could take the, this sulfite paper, fold it, and get that edge wet, and let it get pretty wet, and tear it, and get sort of a deckled edge, as it's kind of soaks up the water, and then you tear it apart. But this is yummy, and if you want to watercolor on it or any ink that would go all the way through, you need to prepare it with some clear gesso or white or whatever paint you want. You can do anything you want. There are no rules. And these are just suggestions. Here's some of that sulfite paper. I think I just took runny paint. It's probably acrylic, and I love Payne's Gray. And I probably just used a pencil eraser and made dots and splatters. And it makes a really fun book page. So messing around art, scribbles, doodles, stamping, stencils. This is under paper from painting. Always save that, because you can, and this is just butcher paper. So there's another option, butcher paper or freezer wrapping paper. Another option, broken down, it makes really fun pages. So for instance, you'll just see like that. Isn't it wonderful? Another just messy play with color and contrast, and then fold it into or tear it into what you want. I mean, even this is pretty, and with the right elements. And this, you know, none of it was planned, it just happened. So it'll be the other side of a page, but you can still turn it into something really beautiful. This is just some really big, I believe this is coffee, with what is called a ruling pen. And that's really fun. And there are YouTube videos that show how to make your own. Really, it's free and it's fun. So look for DIY ruling pen. And as you write with it, and it's not meant to be readable, it skips and splatters, and it is so fun. So that can be taken apart. So here's just a chip brush, barely dipped in India ink, and not trying at all, just kind of doodling around. And then I squirted it with a spray bottle and let it run and spread a little bit. I have thrifted a lot of India ink at thrift stores. You know, it's meant to be used with fountain pens and things like that, but wow, is it a fun art supply. Fun elements for tying things up and making anything you want, really, in your book. Little tabs, little bookmark ribbons, binding it together if you don't want to staple or glue it together with the packing tape. You can just tie it. And when you do that, you can still slip other things in, or someone else could if you give it to them. So you can just tie your signatures together with pretty things and old things. This is just seam binding that you would buy in the sewing supplies and get it all wet if you want it crinkly, and smash it into, tie it up tight, wet, into the corner of a little lunch bag for overnight, and then let it go and dry, and it's crinkled. And you can dye them with tea, and you can save things that you cut off of packages. Use old, there's the seam binding, cheesecloth or muslin or anything, any fine cotton that will take color. Usually synthetic things will not take color. This is sari tape, sari ribbon, and that's what I love to use to tie up my books, journals, altered books. It's just really soft and pretty. Not quite as durable as some things. I wanted to show you an option if you want really tiny, cute photos for in your little journals, your little bag books. And this is a Polaroid printer. It's tiny. It comes like this. And then you can buy the 50-pack photo paper. I will link that. So here are some fun tapes to use. These are washi tapes, and they come in all widths and colors. I love the ones that are old-fashioned. There's even tiny, tiny little ones. I thrifted this. I have no idea where it came from. Loving Life, and it's very sticky. So always check school supplies, office supplies, craft supplies in the thrift shops. These are just my favorites. Another useful one is just plain old masking tape, and you can do whatever you want with it. The sky is the limit. There is no right or wrong. So washi tapes, other tapes, fun tapes. If you would like to stamp your packing tape, your gummed packing tape, before you start using it to attach to things and make little tabs, and maybe even tape your whole book together instead of staples or anything else, and you would like to stamp it, be sure you use a permanent, any color you want, but I love a black or a kind of like a coffee brown for the antique-y look. A big one is much handier, if possible, when you are using really big stamps to cover a lot of space fast. So you could stamp it big and get, so of course you'll have something underneath that won't ruin your surface unless you don't care. Use some of that wonderful underpaper, butcher paper or freezer paper or whatever you have, even newspaper, and then it'll become really fun to use in other things. So large stamps can get half and half. Half here, half here. So I like big ones that cover a lot of space, and whatever you stamp is going to end up being random anyway, so it doesn't really matter too much. Pretty much all of these are thrifted. So I think this one would be really fun. It's so pretty and Frenchy, and covers this much space. And then if you can find some that are journaling lines, that's helpful. Otherwise, you can just draw them in, which is also fun. So those are stamping options. And you can stamp your book pages. You can stamp your book pages before or after you put them in. And you can paint or gesso the bag pages before or after. It's up to you. So more fun additions, pages, elements. These are thrifted linens, laces, tablecloths, towels that can be stiffened with gesso or white paint. And then they're really nice and stable, and you can pretty much do anything you want with them. Pattern paper, swatching papers, prints. This is just printer paper. Pieces from old, you know, the everyday tearaway calendars. Some of those quotes. This is from an old art book. Scrapbook papers, especially double-sided. Neat fibers are surprising and fun. For whole pages, could you imagine embroidering on this for a page? Fantastic. These are pieces of an old painting that nobody wanted, and I thrifted. It was still on the frame, and I tore it apart because the colors are beautiful, and individually it can become, that could become a book cover. So they're beautiful. This was a huge floral painting, and by itself it was rather obnoxious, but in pieces like this, the colors are amazing. Even this is amazing. And the holes are amazing. So this could become a page, and it could be just partial, and then the other side bigger, or opposite. And even this canvas is just beautiful. So there's another piece torn. It's even got the cute corner. So look at all of these cast-offs with fresh eyes, and think outside the box. And here's a bunch of just fun things to save. Little bits of paper doily, the inside of a coffee cup holder, little pieces that you tear away. If you can find old measuring tape, they make really fun tabs on your books. Pieces of photos, little games and letters and teaching aids. It's so fun. So my last few suggestions are old tags that you can tea dye or coffee dye and stamp. You can even do that just with a squirt bottle. And then stamp with a permanent stamp. And these are just really fun additions. It's a beautiful little chandelier. Mailing labels. Stamp a whole page full, and then you end up with each one different and just a little element to add to a page, or use however you want. Same thing here, these are big ones, and so this didn't go completely across, but those are going to be cute by themselves. Like that's going to be really neat just by itself. And stamp random papers, big old ledger papers. But I just recommend that you use permanent ink and just make a bunch at once. So you can find, these are Post-it notes, but they're just random and fun, and they'll be amazing additions to pages in the book. Labels, stickers, these are all stickers. And this is from French General, but I believe I thrifted it. This is Calf Kidston, yes. Labels and stickers. And if you can find old ones, that's really neat. But some of these look like the old kitchen labels that went on canned goods, and old mailing labels and things like that. So just keep your eye out. I've been gathering, collecting, and hoarding for years and years, and that's why I have an embarrassing stash. but we're going to use it all. So next we will start to assemble bags. But just quickly, here are some of the amazing white pens to use for contrast. And do be creating your own piles of art papers.
You can dip them or just splatter them with coffee and tea.
And with everything gathered up, let's get started and never give up using what you have on hand where you are.
Are you still with me? Hang in there. We're all in this together. Remember, this is a course that was in several parts that I am putting all in one video now. So hope you're hanging in with this crazy girl that you're hanging out with. She sometimes even goes dumpster diving. And also I wanted to let you know, you can actually speed up my voice if you want to. You can speed up the video. I won't mind. I do that myself sometimes.
Okay, let's prep some delicious goodies to fill up these beautiful books and bind them together. So let's get some of these beautiful art pages ready with some clear gesso or white gesso or black gesso. In this case, it's white. And so we're going to put a little on the page, and I'll show you several ways to spread it. I like to leave a little border. So first, make sure it fits, or tear it to fit, at least the height. The width doesn't matter so much because they're fun in different page widths. So a couple drops of white gesso, and then just spread it. So here's a white or a palette knife spreading the white gesso, so that it'll seal this beautiful cotton rag art paper and make it ready for whatever you would like to use it for. Tiny bit more, and just spread it. And smooth it out and leave as much texture as you would like. So several different ways. You can use the palette knife, or you can use a chip brush and leave some of this delicious texture, depending on what you like and your style, grungy or more toward perfect, with a smooth coat from an old credit card or old room key. So I love the palette knife, and I love a little border left around the edges. And you could use white paint or black paint. And once you have them the way you would like them, you can put some waxed paper or cellophane in between to protect pages from each other sticking, or just tent them and let them dry like this. So now let's talk about stamping the gummed packing tape to use for bindings and also joining signatures together. So trying the different tapes, the reinforced tapes that have the strings in between, or the flat tapes, it just depends what you have, or if you use your own and make your own tapes from papers and glue. But try to have a juicy stamp pad, permanent, waterproof, a refill if you can, if you do, and be sure you're stamping the correct side on a nice flat surface. And if it isn't flat, you might want to layer some papers underneath to give it some give, so that you have the best impression that you can from your ink and stamp pad. But I'm not going for perfect, I'm going for perfectly imperfect and a grunge, boho, shabby look. But it's completely up to you what you prefer. Don't forget about that wonderful under paper for using in the rest of your art or in your book. You can alternate sides of the stamp to use up the ink. And you can just go with what you get or keep trying for perfect. The reinforced tape is going to be a little less flat for your impression. And again, use several layers of paper to flatten out the surface or give it some give for the stamp to make the best impression. So a really large stamp pad is nice if it's juicy enough. So remember, you can stamp or paint or leave them plain or write on them. There is no wrong or right. There is no perfect. There is only perfectly imperfect, using what you have with what you have on hand where you are to create these elements that will go together randomly, so it really won't matter if you have the perfect impression. So just enjoy creating and stamping and having fun. And how are you doing so far? Keep it fun, keep it real, and let's continue on to the next section, which will be putting it all together into a perfectly imperfect, beautiful book gift. All right, are you ready to start assembling these beautiful brown baguette books, albums, journals, gift cards, whatever you would like them to be, for whoever you would like them to be for? So when you start to layer the bags folded in half, you want to even out the thicknesses. So one bottom of the bag on one side and on the other, and one in and one out, and using a sharp credit card or hotel room key card will help get a really nice sharp fold for assembling and getting a real nice tight spine for the signatures. So there are so many different ways to assemble these. So again, alternate and decide what you want up, what you want down, what you want in, what you want out, as far as the bottom of the bag, the openings, the flaps. And then depending on one of these many, many ways to assemble, you will combine them. And this is going to be with the big, big office stapler that will go through these big, thick, nice, sturdy bags and make a great spine. So set the gauge where you want each of the staples to be evenly placed for the spine. Staple them and then open them nice and straight and create flat creases. And you'll want to do it from the front and then from the back so that you have nice, open, even, straight and flat creases to work with. So it is a lot of folding. You'll have strong hands. So these big, thick, sturdy bags are so nice. They're going to be able to really hold a lot and last. So there's that one. And then you can bring in some of your beautiful reinforced or plain package tape that you stamped or did whatever you'd like with. Here's a quickie folding and assembling of the little lunch bags. And then into the sewing machine, one of the signature goes. It's 5 bags, one up, one down, alternated, and a nice sturdy, strong thread, and a nice thicker needle that's good for upholstery or denim. And not too small of a stitch, but small enough to be a sturdy seam. So there's one, and that could be one bag, one book bag, all by itself. But I'm going to do a second one just to show. And I don't have the sound included because it was very, very loud. With this one, I decided on a little bit longer of a seam, so it wasn't quite so tight. But sew straight down the line of the folds, those nice tight folds that you made. And just like that, you could have 2 books ready to go. And you can decide which is the front and which is the back, even after you have them assembled. But I decided to join 2 together in the future. This is actually joining each 2 pages at a time. So we have a folded bag and then some folded paper or envelope or whatever you decide to make the next pages. So you'll want to tear them to size and layer them up, and then tear whatever tapes you would like to use. I'm using the gummed tape, torn in half and then half again. I love torn edges because they look rustic and shabby. And line them up and stick them together. So these are just page by page. This is one of the other really fun options, and it goes pretty quick. So layer the 2 pages together, tape, glue them together, and then keep double checking as you go. And you can use clips to hold them together nice and sturdy and steady, but they really don't go anywhere. The gummed, wet packing tape holds really well. So continue. You could make this really as thick as you want, as thick as you think is reasonable, with as many pages as you want. I think I did about 2 dozen, including the pages in between of things that I decided to add in and make to fit. So I just started layering page by page with the sticky piece of packing tape, and they turned out to be perfect and secure. So one at a time, and then folding and adding all these delicious pages and getting it ready to add a whole lot more. So I kept being sure that the spine was really flat and ready for when it's time to add a nice big piece of tape for the outside binding. So I really just love these torn strips. They're uneven and imperfect and kind of rustic and rough and just wonderful. I found that the brown paper packing tape was a lot more sturdy than the reinforced tape as far as paper thickness. And the reinforced tapes, I also love those because once they've been wet a little bit, they kind of separate a little and they become more shabby and crinkly. So that's a different look and a different feel. But as for holding pages together, this tape was the sturdiest and strongest. So as the front of the book became thicker and thicker, I needed to move it aside and add pages one at a time by sticking the piece of tape onto the new piece and then adding it to the book because it became pretty thick and wonderful. So just making sure it's all sort of straight and sort of even, and some of the options for taping the binding, any of the tapes that you stamped or painted or make your own with paper and glue sticks or a glue medium. But I've made a fold in the middle and then folded out from that a little bit so there was room from the middle to the edge and then on to the book. And it's a pretty quick, wonderful, yummy, crunchy, sweet handmade thing to become whatever you would like it to be. Something for yourself or a gift for anyone on your list or one for each person on your list. They can be made cute and childlike. So where there was this plastic on the inside of this envelope window, it didn't stick so great. I was in a little bit of a hurry to leaf through the yummy book and be sure all was well. So there's a few spots where it was a little too wet or not quite stuck enough. But otherwise, it was perfectly imperfect. Wonderful. So it is a good idea to go through it right away and be sure that things aren't stuck together that need to be adjusted, and that everything is stuck together that is supposed to be. So, a wonderful, wonderful, quick little book. So there's one of the cards, and here's one of the envelopes where I was in a little bit too much of a hurry. It was a little wetter than the other ones, but it was adjustable and fixable, and all was well. So any pages you want, or just bags, would be perfect. And then I clipped it in place to let it dry, nice and snug and tight in place. I can't decide. This may be my favorite one, but they may all be my favorite one. So again, when you are putting them together, before you do, decide which you want, up or down or in or out as far as the fold and the bottom of the bag, so that you have a variety and a equal thickness throughout. And this is as snug and tight as I could get it. to go into the big stapler, which is best for these big, thick, more rugged bags. So there's one, and there's the other, and that stapler works amazing for that, and the spacing stays the same. And then fold them open and get them ready from the front and then the back. You could give it just like this, or you could add things to give them a start, or just go for it for your own. So it's all folded straight and even, and it can lay open pretty flat. It wouldn't be able to if it was much thicker than that, but I like that they're able to lay flat open really well. And it is ready for a binding, which can be whatever you want, and decide whichever you want to be the front or the back. So here is the same bags, only I had papers ready and folded to go into these signatures in between each set of bags. So it could be 3 or 4 or however many pages you want, and they can be folded all different ways, and fill it up, and then staple it with the addition of all the other pages inside. And it works beautifully. So hopefully, if this is your choice, you have one of these, or it's linked in the supplies, or you can borrow one from an office or someone that you know that has one. So this was thicker, and the staples did come all the way through, but they're not as wrapped around as thinner books, but it's fine because it's going to have a binding and be covered and secure. Bound with whatever you want to bind it with. So let's check the middle and be sure everything got stapled together and it's all good. So again, go through and make nice sharp folds so that it lays flat, front to back and back to front, or at least to the middle. And everything is secure and ready to become an amazing book. So some have more, some have less, folded at different lengths. And then they do double duty because they're a page on the opposite side as well. Plus you have all of the tuck points, hiding places. And there's the thicker one, good to go. So here's another amazing option for binding. The same number of bags, and you'll add the papers after you tie whatever you would like to bind it with. I'm using twine. You could use ribbon, tougher, sturdy string, torn fabric, whatever you would like, and wrap it around a couple times, but not too tight. Don't pull it too tight because you're going to be needing room to add more things. So this is a really fun binding option because you can add in and take out even after it's together. So tie it, but not too tight, around and around as many times as you think is reasonable. And then you can have some layers of pages ready, and they just slip in. This got a little crunchy, but I don't mind that myself. And then it'll take a little bit of adjusting to place each of the folds where you tied the string. And I apologize that part of this is out of the view of the camera, but it's a pretty good idea. And I think I catch on pretty soon. Again, my first ever online class. So adjusting and folding, all kinds of fun different pages that will end up becoming really neat elements in the book. So you can plan ahead the pages that you're going to put together to slip in. But really anything is fine that fits the length of the book. And then all the different widths of folds are fun. And some could even be wider, a little wider than the width of the book or the length of the bags. So there is just the middle. And the string is still not tight, the twine. And now let's do another bunch of layers that are ready to slide in. So whoever gets to have this book, whether it's you or it's a gift, people can add in or take out. So I tore off a little of the envelope just so it wouldn't gum up the project. I was worried that it might hold things up to slide in. And it kind of gets easier and easier, and you'll just need to keep straightening a little. The twine will move, or string or ribbon. I've even seen people use those elastic headbands. It's almost the perfect size. It depends on the size of your book, but one elastic headband. You can buy them in packs of 6 or 8 or a dozen colors. So with the right sized book, or you could cut it and tie it down if it was too big for a smaller book. But just continuing and adjusting. And then eventually, when you have everything in and you're sure it's where you want it, you could take pieces of tape, washi tape, or make your own tape, or masking tape, or packing tape, and go ahead and secure them. But I think it's fun to be able to slide in and out and add things. So just be sure you don't tie it too tight to allow for that. So this black piece is one of those large pieces of sulfite paper or construction paper that I talked about in the supplies, and I just folded it up till it would fit the height of the book, and it was too long, so I folded it back. So I got 2 pockets, 3 pockets, and a flap out of one piece of paper. And then I just stapled the edges, and in it goes. So that was one big useful piece of paper to make many elements and pages. And there it is. So just keep adjusting, straightening, making nice crisp creases, and adding into each spot until they're all full. And then continue adding. And if you wanted, this could just be one signature of several bound together. If you wanted a really thick book. So all different kinds of pages, packing paper, office supplies, dictionary pages, all of the things that were covered in the supplies, things that can be thrifted, you could find for free, you could go dumpster diving, and fold them any way you like. Longer, shorter, keep adjusting the whatever you choose to tie with, the twine or ribbon, back to the center. Eventually it will stay, but as long as you're shuffling things, it'll move a little bit. One more bundle of pages to slide in. So I decided to do voiceovers for most of these classes because when I listened back, there was a lot of huffing and puffing and weird breathing and coughing and talking to myself and mumbling. So that's why most of them are a voiceover, not the original noise. So there is a book that is bound with a tie that you can add and take away from. Or, again, secure everything if you're sure. So this is kind of funny because I thought I would be able to just slide this cute little piece of tissue right in. And no. I don't know what the hold up was on the other side. But here we have it. Working our way through, making sure there's nice, crisp creases. And that the pages are where you want them, but it doesn't matter because you can change anything you want. Isn't it wonderful? Perfectly imperfect, ready to add and add and add. And take out anything you don't want. That's a piece of that torn painted canvas, kind of folded into a little flap. The wonderful old insides of the envelopes, junk mail, office supplies, with amazing small patterns, which is great for smaller pieces like this, to have smaller prints. And they're so interesting and different. So pages ready to paint, gesso, add photos, add all of your travel memorabilia, or whatever the book is meant to be. So I hope you'll try all of the different methods of binding. And there are even more. Isn't it wonderful? It's ready to use. And you could create closures or just ties around them. I love wrapping ribbon around and around and creating a closure like that. Or you could stitch a button on and wrap a ribbon and then loop it. So here's another idea that I thought of and decided I wanted to do when I sewed those two small books, the lunch sack size, that are thinner, on the sewing machine. I later decided that I want to combine them and make one book with two signatures. So they're sewn right down the middle, 5 bags each, alternated, one up, one down, one in, one out, whatever you would like. So I'm going to join it in the middle. I could use some of our stamped packing tape, or I could use some plain packing tape, torn to size and folded, and wet, and glue it. Or I decided to use some of that fun tape that I thrifted that says Loving Life, and it's very sticky. I don't know where it came from originally. I thrifted it, and I've had a ball using it in a lot of projects because I think we should love our life no matter what. So I just tore a piece because I love, again, the rough, rustic, shabby look. Joined them up nice and tight, stuck the tape, super sticky, very secure. And then I will bind the outside with the same tape. And since it's how I roll, it's a little bit crooked, but I like it. And it's another scrumptious, crunchy little book ready to go just like that. Sewn and then taped and ready to go to add anything and everything you want, and then create a closure. A button with a loop, or wrapped with a ribbon, or just some cute little clip. And I'm just snipping off the sticky parts that will cause problems. I just think this is so fun and fast. So let's create stacks to love and to give. And next we will begin embellishing. Okay, all of this has been fun, but now the really fun part comes, which is filling and embellishing your book, whether it's for you or a gift. So remember, use what you have on hand and do what you can where you are. So all of the things I've shown have just been suggestions, things I've collected and thrifted mostly over years. Some things I am not even able to say where I found, but all of these fun goodies can be found with patient thrifting, a little bit of shopping for certain things, but we're going to use all kinds of things from magazines, junk mail, old books, old sheet music, even just masking tape. And we're going to go for it. And I'm going to walk you through filling one of the smaller books and then a quick spin through one of the bigger books and help you have armloads of gifts to give. You could have Christmas done for everyone on your list with an individual book. So first, let's make some snippet bundles. So I have lined up some different size pieces and different tones and colors, darks, medium, lights, of random things. And a lot of these are things I've just torn off of something else that I was working on and saved. And I have an embarrassing stash. So I just tried to pull some out and not overthink it and layer from large to small and alternate contrast and make these little clusters and staple them in fun different ways. And these are fun to tuck into different spots in your books. And so it's a really cute little head start on embellishing the book. They can be moved around in the book. They could include tiny photos. They could include tiny little handwritten messages, hidden messages. But they're just a fun, small way to include all of these little snippets and bits that I don't like to throw away. I love reusing them and continuing a color scheme throughout a book or several books. So these are leftover scrapbooking papers, book pages, pieces torn off of paintings, little bits of lace, paper lace, doilies, and layered. Some of these are torn from one of those daily tearaway calendars that I have bought the last 2 years from Wow Studios, and they feature a whole bunch of different artists. Every day is a different artist. Sometimes there are one artist, actually I think all of the artists are repeated quite regularly throughout the year, but maybe 10 or 12 little day pages each. But I cannot throw them away, and they are perfect for this, to reuse, upcycle, relove. So much of this should not just go in the trash. So some of these are pieces of jelly roll prints. That black piece right there is a jelly roll print of a paintbrush that I did, and you'll see more. And so that most likely will be another class coming up. Making jelly roll prints is amazing, and you can create a ton of content very inexpensively, and I will even show how to make your own gel plate. And you can make all kinds of prints and transfers and layer things, and it's addicting and it's a ball. So I'm just trying not to overthink this too much. Just quickly layer and alternate tones and darks and lights or mediums, color, black, white, pieces of scrapbook paper. The hard part is covering up things that you hate to cover up, but cover up we must as we layer. So just really fun contrasts, prints and florals, solids, little pieces of watercolor swatching are always fun. So just one or two more, and then these will be ready to tuck in to some of the pages, the little envelopes or tuck points or hide. So save the pieces and have some fun creating snippet bundles. Don't overthink it. I want those little rosebuds to show, so that's why I'm struggling. So another free way to create some fun goodies to layer up and fill in your book and make them super interesting with your own style, your own flavors, colors, ideas, and create one-of-a-kind gifts for yourself or everyone you love. Could be an art journal, a travel journal, a book to write, a book that you write and fill and give as a gift. And there they are. And that's enough for now. And we will begin filling the small book, the small lunch-size bag book. So here I made a pocket by just folding over a piece of scrapbook paper, two-sided, so that's a fun way to get two different prints, tones. And so I'm going to find a page where it will fit and use a glue stick and some of the tiny attacher staples to secure it. So permanent glue stick, and you can use part of an old book with pages that don't matter to glue on, and that way you don't get the glue all over everything else. And when a page gets too gummed up, you just tear it away and start on the next one. So a nice sturdy little cardstock pocket, and I will secure the edges so that things can be held safely and securely in. I decided I should have done the staples first, but it's going to work out. So nice and secure. Opening the inside of the bag so that I don't staple too many layers, and that can still open up, and secure this end. And there we have a really fun tuck point or pocket. Look at that, just like that, so fast. So I removed the sound. There was tons of crinkling and rattling and funny breathing and mumbling to myself as I said. So I removed the sound because it was really loud, and decided to make a clear voiceover. So using old, fun stickers to cover up whatever you don't want to show. And probably I should have put some glue on that little sticker. When they're old, I don't think we should trust their adhesive. And then where the packing tape was attaching that used envelope, and it was the window part, it didn't stick so well, so I stapled it just to secure it. So these are little old photos out of an old photo album that I thrifted somewhere, and I don't mind the black paper that kind of got torn off with it. Those, of course, were never archival, and it was just black, thin, cheap construction paper, so I tore them out to repurpose. But they're really fun, tiny, little old photos, and of course you could use the tiny photo printer or little Polaroid camera, which are linked in the supplies, and create your own tiny photos to fit in this fun little book. So this is left over from a tag that I had made in my store that I didn't need anymore, so I just tore off the used parts and kept this. And there it is, a really adorable element to adorn this cute book. So adding pages when you haven't added them in to the binding, I just fold them and make them fit pretty close. They don't have to be perfect. Put some glue on that spine of it and then secure it with more washi tape or whatever tape you want, or that you've handmade with paper and glue. But if you're using washi tape, I recommend reinforcing it because you can't always trust that adhesive either. And just try to tape or put glue where the tape will be and not have extra sticky glue gumming your project up and making things stick together that you don't want. So just rolling out the glue stick and using the very edge of it. I know it looks like I'm doing it flat, but I'm using each edge of the glue unless I have a really wide piece of washi tape, and I know that I'm not going too wide with the glue. So now a brand new page is secured, and add it in anywhere you want. You can add anything you want anywhere. You can make it as thick and chunky and fun as you would like, and layer and attach in every which way. Staples, glue, tapes. There are no rules, and you use what you want, how you want. These are just some quick ideas to show filling up your book. You might want to draw writing lines with a permanent pen on a lot of the pages for journaling. You might want to paint a lot of these brown bag pages with a clear coat of paint, or black or white gesso or clear gesso for more drawing, sketching, painting, writing, doodling, whatever art anyone wants to add. You can stabilize the page before that if you would like. So more sticky, fun tape and other fun little stickers. I recommend using a glue stick first, like I just did not. There's one of the junk mail envelopes that's ready to stick in. I already put something inside under the little window to show through, and it was one of those calendar tearaway pages, and I just separated it. Except now I changed my mind, and I'm doing a different junk mail envelope that's ready to attach. But I will end up putting them all in. So sealing the edge, and a little extra because I'm going to be reinforcing it with fun different washi tapes, or any strip of paper that you wanted would work with the glue. Elmer's glue, homemade glue, whatever you want, whatever you have. So always save the pieces. So whenever I'm doing this and I am trying to use what I have, do what I can with what I have, where I am, I think about all of our ancestors, our great-grandmothers, grandfathers, pioneers, farmers, ranchers, and how they used everything they had when they raised animals. It took everything they had to get them raised and keep them alive and feed them all winter. And so that when they needed to butcher, they used every single part of the animal for something. Or in the house, when they bought flour and it came in a flour sack, they made quilts out of the flour sacks. When their clothes got old, they remade those into quilts. So we have it easy, but it's fun and nostalgic and kind of awesome to think about really repurposing and reloving, reusing amazing materials and turning them into beautiful things to have or give. And they mean so much more than when so much care and attention has gone into it. Imagine the gifts they made, and they probably only got a few gifts, sometimes ever in a lifetime. So they're really treasures. We have so much these days. So this was the outside of a sticker, but I couldn't bear to get rid of it. So we'll see in a minute that it did need to be reinforced, re-secured with some better glue. But it made a cute element. These are sticky notes from a fun little office collection. So they just had the one little strip of sticky, but I covered the whole thing with the glue stick so it will stay. And so not everything has to be completely glued flat, and you can staple things near the edges and then create a little flap to hide something under and keep layering. Write a message or whatever you would like to do underneath. But the sky is the limit. Think outside the box. Be creative, have fun. Do funny, goofy, random things. Keep looking around to see what you can find that can be turned into art elements, like these amazingly useful junk mail envelopes that have such neat prints, all so different on the insides. And they make great pages. They're fun to use with or without the window. And then it's just so fun to mix and match with those small prints that are on the insides, and then florals or whatever you like to mix and match with graphic prints. They're perfect because they're always a small print, and I've gone looking for small prints of scrapbook papers and printed papers. They're not easy to find, except now they are. And I have friends who bring me bags full of their junk mail, envelopes, and office mail, and billing mail, and I love them. Free art papers. And don't forget to look inside big, big envelopes. So more of the adorable little photos. Repurposing the past. We are memory merchants. So this is just the beginning. Just getting the first things onto these pages is just the beginning. And there's lots of room left for all kinds of other writing or art or photos or stories. And here we go, finding out that I need to secure this cute little piece of scrap trim that was left around a sticker. But it makes a cute little frame. And it should not go in the trash. And then it just adds to the whole theme and colorway that you've chosen when you keep incorporating all these bits from the same pieces of supplies that you find. One really neat thing to do that I just realized I didn't show with a little bit bigger photo is to cut it into thirds and divide it that way. They're neat together on the same page, or if you needed to, you could divide photos throughout the book. So this is a piece of fiber mesh. It's really soft and kind of like woven thin twine. I have no idea what it is. All I know is that I thrifted it, and I love using it in all different kinds of ways in projects. And this could be embroidered in with silk ribbon or twine, but it's a neat, large grid of fiber that anything could be done with, or it could just be used to cover a picture or a photo and give it a neat finish. So there's one of the card envelopes. And for contrast, I decided to add this cute little craft paper envelope, and it has a tiny white card in it that you could leave a message on or embellish or put one of those cute little photos on. There we go. So just working our way through, finding contrast. That's another piece torn from a jelly plate print that I made. And I was just making jelly prints of my own paintbrushes. And that's just one of those chip brushes. And it is amazing fun. So stay tuned to Lost Arts with Janine, and that will be a class. It is quite addicting and fun. So here's the one I was looking at before going in, gluing it real well, and getting ready to secure it. I've made many of these books and sold them in my shop. People love them. So there I'm thinking about how to secure this side of the page. And it's a pretty wide tape, so a wide path of glue stick. So isn't it fun to be so creative and make such a neat thing from mostly free goodies? I would love to hear if someone is able to make theirs completely free of expense from everything they had on hand. The other thing you could do is go on a scavenger hunt, make your list and go running through the neighborhood and say you're on a scavenger hunt and collect it all. That would be a hoot. Do it with a group. Do it with your girls, your kids. This is a piece of that wonderful handmade cotton rag art paper. So I'm just going to staple the top and make a little flap so things can still go underneath and you can still reach inside that flap of the bag. I will be showing a really quick flip through next of a bigger bag because I want to be careful of your time. And then after that, there's even more, a different one with even more ideas for how to attach things and embellish and trim. So just finishing the front of this. Deciding what will look best. Cute little sticker and adding glue so it stays real secure. The glue sticks are amazing, and the packing tape really hold everything secure. And then, of course, I really think the glue stick is a good safety for washi tape or older stickers and things like that. So you can tie these up any way you would like. You could sew a little button on or make all kinds of fun different little closures. And I like to put a little label on the back. You could write your own name and date it, or put a sticker, or hand carve your own little brand, your name, out of a little pink eraser, so you have a stamp to label every one. So secure with glue stick. And this one has a good start, or is the perfect stage to give or sell. Adorable. So here is the bigger one. With basically all of the same ideas. Pages were already added in with the binding, and then just all kinds of the same fun. Papers, lace. So let's talk about tabs real quick. You can use little office labels, thrifted, or paper clips with cute bits sewn on. A watercolor swatching tab stapled on. More cute paper clips with lace and fabric sewn. Office labels. You can use the brown tape folded over and secured. Stickers. And there they are, the two adorable books. So please stay tuned, because I have lots and lots of ideas. So next is the last book.
Are you still with me? I hope you're loving it. It is so much fun. So by the last book, I guess I meant a bonus showing 2 more books. So this is another bag book that I cannot stop making. And this was actually a shopping bag from a spa on a trip. And I just took the basic supplies. I took some gesso, some photocopies, some art papers I made, some little bits I had already sewn together, old buttons, old measuring tape, some of the tiny little photos, some good embroidery floss, scrapbook papers, scraps, some of the Tim Holtz adorable people elements that come in bulk packs. And I made another one of these bag books that's just tied together with strings or whatever you would like, ribbon, twine, whatever, so things can be taken in and out. And so this one has 2 signatures only, but I filled them with that many pages. So I just started enjoying filling it up with whatever I wanted that I had taken along. I just took a bag of goodies along with me on this trip and had quite a bit of time to just relax. So art papers I made. This is little fabric swatches from an old little bundle of quilt fabric swatches, but it reinforces where you might not want the string to pull through or the paper to tear. This is sturdy paper, but I went ahead and did that anyway. So I just folded up a bag into the size of a book I wanted and started assembling photocopies, butcher paper, sewing pattern papers. I like to take notebooks apart and use the pages in new books. And again, graph paper and beautiful photocopies and lined paper for journaling. More. This is just old typing paper, graph paper. Some of that really yummy handmade art paper, cotton. I call it cotton rag with the deckled edges, with some things that I've done in other art classes. Jelly plate transfers, old music paper, thrifted, art paper, scrapbook paper, fun paper clips, fun tabs on the edges, just torn little bits of fabric with the tiny attacher, plain papers to do whatever I want with. Anything that's old and shabby can be reinforced with cute little staples or washi tapes, or left shabby. So this is the paper that, deli paper that they wrap sandwiches in, with some stamping, plain paper, copy paper, art paper. And here's the second signature, and again I reinforced each edge with those cute little swatches, and just in case, so they don't tear away. And then, so there's one signature, 2 signatures attached by the strings tied around. So a lot more could be added to this, taken away. There's plenty of room. Funny vocabulary cards, more deli paper with stamps and just splashes of watercolor left to dry, jelly plate, just fun dyeing, playing around with doilies and coffee and tea. These are really fun. Just bunching up some fabric, zigzagging it, and then using that for a tab. And I attached it with tiny attachers, or you could sew it on. And this is really fun. Paper out of a notebook that I just took apart to use all the pages differently. Here's an old paper doily, pretty sturdy. This is quilt designing paper, old floor plans, yummy handmade paper. Here's the middle of that signature. Here's the other side of all of those papers. And this is the back cover. I just took an old map out of a Reader's Digest book or something. That was awesome. Just saved every little fun bit. Embroidery cotton label. Everything can just be reinforced or left a little shabby. So here's the back. Just fun different papers. This was off of a book spine. And then here's another one. It's not a bag, but it's the same idea. It's 2 signatures. This is just embroidery floss. And it's a notebook that I took apart, took everything out of it, and refilled it with what I wanted, the way I wanted, but it's the same idea. So just my art papers, just all kinds of deliciousness, old pages from books, watercoloring on book pages. Remember the old school paper where you drew at the top and wrote your story at the bottom? Dyeing old ledger paper with fun paint things. Pages, pages, pages. Sheet music, super fun. This is just an edger stamp that I have. I bought this old book that was all about monasteries. And it's just full of gorgeousness. It's past. I just love the past, the architecture, the beauty, the sunlight, everything about that. So those are just some quick photocopies, scribbles, pages out of other books that I started and took it apart and put them in here. This is the back side of all of those pages. This is just school notebook paper, and it happened to get wet, and I love what it did. So now it's crinkly and watery and usable for journaling or writing notes or whatever you would like. So just another example of one of the journals that can just be put together, tying signatures in, and then you can still put things in, take things out. Art journal, travel journal, just a place to keep favorite things, whatever you want. No rules, just right. You might want to make yours all minimalist and monotone and beautiful in that way. This is not attached yet, but it looks pretty right there. I just attached this old book page right there with washi tape. Isn't it fun? Oh my goodness, that is just smearing, that's a word, smearing paint onto old sheet music. And just strips of art papers are a blast in a row like that. It's just so fun to see the contrast. So just please have a ball using your favorite things, putting them together. Collecting quotes. Life is a shipwreck, but we must not forget to sing in the lifeboats. Voltaire. Amen to that. Some handmade paper. Playing around. Messing around. Smearing. Stencils, or probably just bubble wrap with that. Drips, splatters, fun, fun, fun. Little birdie. Reinforced. And this was the notebook that I took apart. It already had this really neat binding on it. It was new, but it already looks worn, which I love. And there's the edge, and there's back to the front. And so I just wanted to share 2 more samples of journals made just by loosely tying in those signatures. So there you go, a little bonus of a couple more books. Wonderful. Enjoy, and thanks so much again. We've done it. If you've come this far with me, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I hope you are making a whole bunch of beautiful gifts or journals to have for yourself or give to everyone on your list all year long. But thank you. And this is the end of my first ever online course, my mini course, Brown Bag It. Bring your own using all that we have on hand. I thank you so much. I hope you will share this. I welcome feedback, especially if you have ever created an online course yourself, because I want to make them better and better and better. So I have learned a ton. It's been a huge challenge. I don't have a team or anything, it's just me. And I'm not techie, and these past 2 years have been the hardest of my whole life. Our family suffered a great loss, and so creating this course has been life-saving and very challenging. So I can attest to the fact that art heals and creativity is necessary. So I have so many more ideas for lots of other courses and all kinds of creative makery. So I hope you would share this with friends. I kept it really inexpensive because it was a first, and I would love for a lot of people to just have a little taste of what I hope to be bringing along. So again, I thank you, and I hope to see you very soon. Lots more shenanigans coming, and please check out my other free tutorials on this YouTube channel. There are a bunch of great things. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you so very much. Here's what's coming up.